welcome to Best of Publishers. Today we're taking a look at Eggertspiele, a company from Germany. Now Eggertspiele is a smaller company, but they've made some pretty big names in gaming. Most of their games have been brought over to America through various publishers. Stronghold is currently the partner with them, although they've also brought games over through Tasty Minstrel and I think Rio Grande in the past. I'm not sure every company that they've worked with. Some of their biggest games are not in my top 10 because they're just not my style. I was never really a big fan of Village. I thought it was okay at best. Imperial, I just really disliked. Cuba, I was like, Antique, I never played it, but I played the Antique Duellum, which I did not like at all. So you're like, well, if you're not like those, Vasel, what do you like? Well, let me tell you. Here's my 10 favorite games from Eggertspiele. We'll start with number 10, My Village. Now, this was a little similar to Village in theme-wise, but My Village used dice. Now, I'm not some person who just loves dice for dice sake, but I do like it is when you roll a pile of dice, and then players are going to use those dice and take different actions and get cards. And once you have different cards, you basically have more actions that you can take. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's multiple paths to victory. A really cool little game, My Village. Number 9 is Camel Up. Now, Camel Up won the Spiel des Jahres against Splendor, which is crazy. It shouldn't have. Splendor is the better game. However, Camel Up is still a fun racing game. Now, is it random? Oh, yes. Is there just insane things will happen in a game? Sure. But that also makes the game fun, as you have these camels that are racing and you are betting on which one will win, and then you will play cards and do different things to help make certain camels do better than others. And roll dice and hope. There's a really cool dice pyramid mechanism, which is really superfluous, but I find it highly entertaining. Camel Up, or Camel Cup for some people. Number 8 is Coal Baron, the card game. Now, probably Coal Baron itself would be on my list. I have not played the board game, although I heard the card game is very similar. It is a worker placement game, except you have to place a worker that's one higher than the last person, which can be tricky because sometimes you can't, or sometimes you don't want to waste a worker in different spots. You are essentially placing workers to get different loads that put in trains, and then ship those trains off and get points. Various ways to get points. There is a lot of game in this card game. That's Coal Baron, the card game. Number 7 is Yido. Yido is kind of like an advanced Lords of Waterdeep. Yido has, in Yido you are sending samurai ninjas off on missions, and so you're placing workers out here. I need to get weapons, I need to get this, I need to get that, I need to get money. Okay, now I'm going to go off and do these missions. A lot of stuff going on in this game, a lot of craziness. I really enjoy it. It has a kind of a deep feeling to it, and a lot of choices. Yido. Number 6 is Rococo. Rococo is a game about fashion. And it's another worker placement style game where you're trying to put people down and get points here and do this. The fashion theme is something that's not necessarily for me, but I will give it granted that it's certainly a unique theme. And I do like the artwork, and there's a lot going on in this game, giving you a lot of choices, which is something their games mostly do, Rococo. Number 5 is Jorvik. Now, Jorvik is, I know, a remaking of a previous game, but this is a game in which you are going to be buying cards throughout the game in kind of an auction setting. So I'll put a worker here and say, I'm intending to buy this card. You put a worker behind me and says, if Tom doesn't buy it, I'll buy it. Not only that, when I put a worker there, I'm saying I'm going to pay 1 for it. When you put a worker behind it, I now have to pay 2 for it. If I don't have 2 coins, I'll pass, and then you get it for 1. But a third person might go behind you, and now I have to pay 3. If I pass, it's yours for 2. Unless you pass, they get it for 1. So I might go behind that person and then say, okay, I'm not buying it for 4. Hopefully you won't buy it for 3, and you won't buy it for 2, and I'll get it for 1. It's a pretty neat system, actually. It's a little mean feeling, and then there's another thing where you can get cards, and the cards give resources. Resources turn in for points, special abilities, lots of cool things. Jorvik. Number 4 is Hamburgum. Matt Gertz has made a lot of games with rondels. I'm not the biggest fan of all his games, but Hamburgum is one I enjoy a lot. You move around this little rondel in the middle. It looks like a spinner without the spinner, and you can move a certain number of spaces. And those spaces, you pick which space, you might get resources. You'll use those resources to get the materials you need to build churches. This game is all about building churches and connecting different areas on the board. It really flows together. It's a double-sided board, so there's a map on each side that feels a little bit different. Fun game, Hamburgum. Number 3 is Animals on Board. This just came out last year. This is a game about where you are a competitor to Noah and the Ark, and you want to have animals on your Ark, except Noah has apparently he's the only person who can have 2 of a kind. So you want 1 animal, or you want 3 or more, and you're going to get these animals by splitting a group or taking a group that has been split already. Of course, when you take a group, you get to pay for each animal in it. So you want to split the groups up so that they're small so you can afford them, but also that they don't help someone else out, that they help you more. Really great family game. Number 2 is Mombasa. Mombasa is a game about exploring and expanding in Africa, colonialism in Africa. Not real keen on the theme per se, but I really do like this game and how it just all comes together there are so many options. This game's going to be different every time. You're placing workers, you're spreading here, moving on this track, doing this. There's just so much in the game. And at the beginning, you're like, I'm never going to get a lot of victory points. But once they pile in, you're like, oh, that's how it works. It's a game you'll need to play more than once to kind of get a grasp of how it goes. But it is a solid, wonderful game, Mombasa. And my favorite game currently from Eggertspiele is the Great Western Trail. Great Western Trail has been getting a lot of love last year, and it certainly should be getting a lot of love. There's a lot going on in the game. There is deck building aspect to it where you're collecting cattle cards, but there's also you're moving on a track, and depending on where you move and stop, you might have to pay things as you pass people. There's just so much in this game. And you are driving these cattle down a thing. The theme actually feels pretty strong. A really, really solid, heavier Euro-style game, but one I think is really quite good. Eggertspiele makes a lot of these kind of games, and like I said, there's going to be a lot of games I didn't mention. People are going to say, how could you not have mentioned this? Well, maybe they're not mine, but here's the comment section. It's yours to tell me where I'm wrong in the games you think should be on here. All right, well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Best of Publishers, Eggertspiele. I'm Tom Vasel. This has been The Dice Tower.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.